again, let me emphasize that we are going to have a shortage of health care providers and workers, direct care workers, and that an appeals process should somehow be able to vet out serious criminals from youthful behavior or juvenile behavior. That's not permanent. Okay, I wanted to conclude with how we as a society care for our elderly and disabled populations is really our measure of humanity. Michigan cares for its most vulnerable populations. We care for our elderly, we care for our persons that are disabled. And let's think about policies that we can do to, or that we can develop to ensure that the most vulnerable people are protected and that we have the best qualified background workforce taking care of those people. Thank you.
We're going to take a few questions here. And I'd like to ask, I know that the House and Senate is this working? All right. Going into session shortly, so if you are a senator or representative, I'd like to take your questions first.
Thank you. My name's Bruce Caswell. On the slide you showed prevalence of abuse in the past year. I understood you to say that that came from both nursing homes and home care, or did it just come from one or the other?
Oh, no, this came from, well, yes and no. It came from households, Michigan households with a family member in long-term care, and that could have been in one of those settings.
Okay, now, in terms of this particular issue, how many of these abusers, did you ask how many of these abusers were actually family members?
We did ask that question. And also another source of the abuse is other people living or residing within, within a particular facility.
So how many of these people how many of these abusers that you found were family members?
The family members accounted for less than 5%, but other residents within facilities accounted for up to almost half.
So roommates and that sort of thing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Or people that live down the hallway.
Okay, and under the criminal background check, are family members required to get a criminal background check if they're going to take care of family members?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
If they're working in nursing
senators,
homes.
reps with questions here?
Oh, okay.
On your slide here, cost of crimes, could you explain institutional cost, especially insurance?
Okay. Pardon?
What is the crime, specifically insurance?
What is the crime to insurance? I don't understand. Okay, like insurance payouts for what an institution would have to pay for some type of an injury to a resident or to somebody receiving long-term care services.
Okay.
Actually, if anybody's interested in where these crimes came from, it is like pages and pages or spreadsheets about what are all the sources or what are the average costs affiliated with particular crimes. And if you'd be interested in that, I'd be glad to send that to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
On the slide regarding prevalence of abuse in the past year, is that part of a larger report that we can have access to, and are these based on questions or based on Michigan population only?
Yes, this is based on Michigan population only, and I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Is there a report, like a full report that we might have access to?
Yeah, actually we have some briefing reports on this.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Questions? It seems that there may be some interest in getting more information, and maybe Lori can provide us that, and we can send it out through your email addresses and information that you've given us. So we'd be happy to do that. Check with the people out there before down.
Yep.
The mic.
Oh, sorry.
I think I can be loud now.
Sure.
In terms of your abuse statistics, you obviously referenced the situation with folks getting background checks and so on. But beyond that, what other quality measures are possible in a home care setting to make sure that people are getting appropriate care and being taken care of? Are there any other things that have been developed across the country?
There are, but I am definitely not the expert in that area. And that right now, the background checks don't cover home health care, which is overseen by the Michigan Department of Community Health. And actually, I think the MDCH would be a better responder to that issue.
Hi, I'm Representative Pam Burns from Washtenaw County, and I'm sorry I'm late, and you may have already addressed this issue. For those who are victims, was there a study done on those that had families present and visiting frequently, and those that had no immediate family visiting them or taking care of them?
Since the measure, our unit of analysis was households of Michigan families, we contacted Michigan households through a random digit dial telephone survey. We talked to 2,400 households dispersed across the state with a family member in long-term care. So the unit of analysis was not the actual individual who was, the victim of violence, abuse, or neglect.
Okay.
It's a difficult, what you're asking is an important question. It's a difficult thing to look at because you can't directly talk with, patients in long-term care facilities, or you could, or there's issues of reliability because of communication or health or dementia issues with the recipient.
Questions? Is there?
More abuse has happened against the elderly in the institution versus the home, or have there been any statistical analysis done of whether there's more abuse once a person is institutionalized versus whether they're in their own home?
This study here looked at persons receiving long-term care, so we cannot tell what's going on before people enter into, official government or social services. However, within our study, we have found that the bigger, the more extreme the disability, the more vulnerable the person is for abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
I've had some relatives in Presbyterian Village, and I found them to be very very productive in their help. Is there any difference now between public institutions and private sector? Any statistical analysis versus the public versus the private?
I believe that there are people who have done that, but we have primarily focused on Medicaid populations in the state of Michigan. So people that are funded by Medicaid, Medicare.
Thank you.
One last question? Anyone? Okay, thank you.
Wait just a second. I wanted to clarify. The gentleman had asked earlier about families, when family members undergo a background check system. So what I had interpreted that as people who are working in long-term care services, which you weren't meaning. So no, they're not required to do that. If they were, which does happen frequently, then of course they would have to undergo background checks just like any other employee. Okay?
Dr. Post will be available at the round table at 1, so if you have further questions, it's a good time to chat with her then. I failed to recognize Adele Fleury and Sarah Bareilly, who are, Sarah's the photographer, and Adele, without you, I don't know what we'd do here in this technology world, so thank you very much. I also would urge you, I plead with you, please complete the pink forms. And it would make my heart soar today if you would do that. Thank you. Right now I'd like to turn to Anne Marie Schneider, who will be introducing our next speaker.